everyone, this is Star Zenith 33, Laura Francesca here, and I'm going to be talking about the 33 energetic blocks and the activations, okay? So, this is a little bit of a different podcast episode. I normally will do the astro weather, but I thought, what a perfect time right now to talk about finances, to talk about mindset, to talk about how to unblock those blocks that I recently learned from Kevin Trudeau. For those, I was forgetting his name, Kevin Trudeau. And he talked about he's a billionaire, and he talked about these 33 energetic blocks that we all have. Okay. So let's head over there and talk a little bit more. Okay, thank you for listening to the episode here. This is a very important episode for me because I normally do talk about the astrology, which is really important. And if you actually add the astrology to this, that's like adding gas to the fire, okay? It will combust because it will become more powerful. And for right now, I do want to talk about what these 33 energetic blocks are, if you've heard of them or if you have not. Okay, a lot of people have not. Okay, and a lot of people might be struggling with the mind. Okay, or it could be that they're being influenced or projected from other people. Okay, and so when we unblock these energetic blocks, we become more spiritual. We speak the self development language versus a fixed psychological system. Okay. That when it's fixed, um, you just really do not go nowhere. Okay. And you're just fixed. And so you don't want to be fixed. Okay. You want to be open minded. You want to be mutable, like the mutable signs, which is Gemini, it is Pisces, it is Virgo, and Sagittarius. Those are mutable signs. Those signs, they go with the flow, except the one that would be more controlling would be more Virgo. But Gemini, Pisces, and Sagittarius, they're a little bit more open-minded. Well, we know Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the brain, right? How we communicate and so forth. And Virgo, it's a little bit more controlling, a little bit more perfectionist. It won't do anything unless it's perfected, and it's very analytical. It does rule Mercury as well, but sometimes it can want to control situations, and it needs to learn to let go, right? In order for it to be with the flow, because that's how money enters, right? Just like the waves of the beach. If you notice the waves, how they go in and they go out, they flow in, they flow out, and that's how money is. Okay, it goes out and it comes back in. So what I'm going to be talking about here is when it comes to manifestation and the mindset of manifestation and the symbolic, okay, numerology circles. They're often described here with energetic patterns. Okay, pattern is the keyword. And these patterns interrupt wealth, expansion, visibility, and long term success. So here's the structure of 33 energetic blocks, and I'm going to read them. Okay, so if you have any of these 33 energetic blocks, okay, which often associate with abundance, your work, your leadership, and high frequency living, okay, then it's time that you handle it, okay, and you go to work and unblock them. I also shared, if you are following me on TikTok or on X, I think I shared it also on Facebook, um, where I printed these 33 blocks, and these actually activations, which is the opposite of the blocks. The blocks is what you're doing wrong, and the activations are what you could do right. So when I learned about these 33 energetic blocks, I wanted to focus more on the activation because I feel it's good to know what's blocking you, first of all, right? You want to know, right? But I feel that sometimes the 33 blocks of what you need to get rid of what you need to work on, it could be a little bit like a little bit critical, I would say. But I mean, it's about being real, right? You got to be real. I have a progress moon in Virgo right now, so I'm not trying to be critical or nothing, you know. Next year it will go away, my Virgo moon. And so I'm working on not being so perfectionist, not being so critical, not being so, you know. And so I didn't really want to focus on the 33 energetic blocks, more on the activations, which is what can I do in order for me to not be stuck in this energetic, whatever it is, right? And I, what came to me was with these 33 energetic blocks, what it tells you what you're doing wrong. A lot of people, it's kind of harder to move forward. I mean, you can do the work, but sometimes I think when it comes, especially a lot of people have ADHD, okay? And a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't have time for all that. I don't, people want right now things like fast, right? So a lot of people don't really want to do the work, they think of like, oh, I got to do all that, like, and so people would rather want to work on what they can do right instead of what they're doing wrong. Because I feel, as somebody that does have ADHD as well, I feel that when you focus on what you're doing wrong, it's going to take longer. It really is, right? It's going to take longer for you to unblock it, right? Of course, there's other tools you can do to unblock, right? Like pheromones and oils and, and things like that, meditation, right? But you have to do that every day. I don't mind wearing oils because all you got to do is just dab some oil on your earlobes, which is where the amygdala is, which is your manifestation. So, I don't mind doing that, and I like to smell good too, and very feminine in that area. But you know, knowing that you can do the right steps, right, every day, or know what you are doing right will get you going, right? Versus, okay, I got to fix this I can't be doing, I'm doing this wrong, and I'm doing this wrong, and I'm doing this wrong, But it's good to know, though, right? It is good to know, but I think a lot of times it's like you don't really want to do the work. Like, let's make it easier of just working on what I can do right, But I'm going to read both, okay? So some people might be more into, I want to know what the blocks are, and some people might be with, what can I do right, right? They all, they're both on the same axis there. So let's talk about the blocks, okay? It's a lot. Okay, 33. Um One of the blocks is fear of being seen. Okay, this is one of the blocks towards your abundance and your prosperity. Okay, the fear of being seen, the fear of success, the fear of failure. You might be too perfectionist there. Scarcity, having a scarcity mindset, very limited. You only could do this. You can't go further, right? You don't have this grandiose imagination, or you're thinking big. I do have a grandiose, and that's because of my astrology. My Jupiter is very grandiose, very grandiose. And so, but I do have to balance that grandiose, because then it just might be grandiose and that's it, So another thing too is guilt around money. Okay, we might have guilt around having too much money. Be like, well, we have too much money. What if my family doesn't make this kind of money as well? And that makes you be guilty over money, and then money's not really going to come. But you also have to understand, and we should not have guilt over money, because we can help our family with money, right? If they don't have money but we have money, unless an emergency happens, then you can come through. right? And help them out. Like, for example, what's going on in California, in Garden Grove, California. I'm pretty sure everybody's talking about it, where it's talking about the leakage that happened, the toxic leakage that happened in that spilled out in 4 cities, including Anaheim, where Disneyland is. So it's a really big deal because these are big tankers, and one erupted and it blew up and it threw a bunch of toxicity out in the air. So they had to evacuate a lot of people, right? So imagine if you had money and that happened to one of your family members, right? And they had to evacuate, and most of them are living in gyms. They're living in auditoriums or other places that are vacant, and they have to sleep there until they give the green light and say, okay, it's okay to return back home, right? So, what are these people that don't have money that live more on the Anaheim area? Stanton is another kind of a little rough place there. Um, Garden Grove and Westminster are a little bit more better locations. I think the Saigon, uh, Vietnamese people live around the area. Hispanics live around there as well. And so, what do what do you do if you had money and one of your family members was going through that? Well, you would rescue them and from them not staying there, and sleeping there in sleeping bags in the floor or something, with other people. Who knows how they're living there, Um, but if you had the money, you could rescue your family and say, you know what, you don't need to sleep there. I'm going to book you a hotel, or, you're going to come and live with me, till it gets cleared up and then you could return, right? Or the people that do have money, maybe they have a second home. Maybe they're going to go stay with a family member or stay at a hotel or something till it clears out, right? So that's a kind of thing that you could do with money. So you should never feel guilty about money, okay? And that's something that I cleared out, okay? I have it in my human design where I have guilt crossing one of those lines there. And well, I had it because I don't have it anymore because we get to clear it out. That's why when we understand human design, we understand how we make money and how we lose money and so forth, and we do the work so we won't be losing money. Okay. And it's not just human design; it's also astrology. It's many areas that you can know, you know, how to bring in the money and why is your money going away and so forth. Um, Believing wealth is selfish is another block. Okay. And like I explained, we should not think that it's selfish because we can do things with it and help our family members, okay? Our community. We can do a lot of things with money. So we should never think that it's selfish. Overgiving without receiving. Okay, that's a big one. Okay. If you're an overgiver, that's a block. Okay. If you're an overgiver and you're not receiving back, that's a block. Okay. Because the Bible even tells us that what you give, you receive. Okay. It's like doing work, you get paid for the work. You don't work for free, right? You don't go to the company and you clock in and you're working for free every day. No, you don't do that. You got to pay bills. Okay. And the same thing if you're working from home. Okay. If you're working from home, you need to get paid. Okay. Because you're valuable. Your information is valuable. And another thing, so you might be overgiving. So maybe you have to step back. Okay. And put some boundaries, put some standards. Okay. That until I receive, then I will give back. Okay. And if if they don't want to give, well, goodbye. Okay. But that is a block when you overgive. Okay. Another thing that I do have to say about the overgiving, it could be very people pleasing. Okay. You might people please people, put them on a pedestal, and that's not good because what that is going to do is that they're going to step more on you. Okay. They're going to do it more often because you're putting them on a pedestal. And another thing about overgiving also is if you're overgiving too much, let's say you're following someone and you're just kind of to the point where it's like very stalkerish, okay? And you're you're a people pleaser, and you're codependent. Codependent goes right along the people pleasing, okay? There's this codependency, and what happens in that case, or what I've known, okay, and I've had to do the work also with people pleasing because they're Libra, okay, and I'm a stellium in Libra, okay, three or more planets in Libra, you're a stellium, and so I have strong Libra, and that comes from my mother, and my mother, she was also a people pleaser. Well, she's still kind of still not as bad as before, but yeah, and that's only because I've taught her not to. Um, but the whole people pleasing is very much so you can be liked. Okay, so you could be liked, and also to make friends. If we buy them a bunch of candy and we give them, discounts or free candy, maybe they'll like us and want to be our friend. And that's how I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of friends when I was young. I was a kid, and I remember that working at my grandfather's shop. He owned a candy store. He knew I was this way, and interesting. He's a Libra as well. Well, he was a Libra, but he was very Libra Scorpio. Okay, so he was not about to lose no money. He was very, very much about always knowing where his money is and how it's making and everything. Very financial man. And he's my grandfather that had a candy shop and sold Coca-Cola, got very famous for Coca-Cola in his community. He was very loved by his community, and it was the only shop that was open 24/7. So when the stores were closed and these kids wanted a soda, even if they came at 3 in the morning, he would get up and go sell them a Coca-Cola bottle. He was always open. He was a workaholic. So um, and the reason I talk about that is because, when we overgive, what can happen is that, we want to be. Oh, and the reason I said that is because he thought that I was going to give free candy. I had to help him while he ate dinner. And he was always like, looking at you, the corner, Lord, but like in a funny way, But he's like, don't be giving the candy for free, because I didn't really understand the pesos either. I had to learn the money in Mexico. And, but I wasn't going to give it for free, But I don't know why he thought I was going to give it for free. So funny. But the way he did it, he didn't say it like really mean, but he was just like, I'm watching. Don't be giving them the candy for free, because he knew that I like to make friends, in Mexico, and it's very easy in Mexico because when I was a kid and I was, well, not really a kid, I was a teenager, a preteen, and, I was, you know, I really liked like working his candy store. It was like a make believe thing for me, but they knew that I was a granddaughter and they knew that I came from the States, they call it from the other side, you know, and, so they're like, "Oh, you're the granddaughter," and I was like, "Yeah, I am," and they're like, "Oh, that's so good," and they were like very friendly. Like I was kind of like a little celebrity, because my grandfather was very popular, very well known, very liked in the community. So I was a granddaughter from the United States, just to visit and just kind of helping him in the shop and so forth. And they were so happy. They were just, I was like a little celebrity there, They were just like so happy to meet me and so forth, and it's just funny. But anyway, the overgiving, it can be that you are, if you're overgiving too much, just because you want to make friends, you want to be liked. It could also, giving too much, and this is the problem with overgiving, and this is what I found out, what I discovered, okay? Because I used to overgive. And what happens is that when you overgive, the other person is going to feel like you want to control that person, okay? It's that person is going to say, well, wait, why are you being so nice to me? Like, why do you want to do all of this for me? Like, and sometimes, it is, and it's not on purpose, right? It just might be that you're just a generous person, that you like to give, right? And, you know, the other person might take it wrong, okay? Because maybe nobody has been that nice to them, right? They've always had a guard or maybe a wall up, and said, well, nobody's been that nice to me. So why do you want to be nice to me? You know? Like, why all of a sudden, like, I don't know, we don't really know each other, but why do you want to be nice to me, right? And so they're gonna feel off guarded, like they don't trust you because you're being too nice. And because what happens is when you're too nice, that's why I don't like the word nice, okay? I like the word friendly, I like the word kind, but I don't like the word nice. I do not like that word at all. Okay, nice is very Libra, and nice, it just, you're gonna get stepped on. Okay. And what I'm trying to explain is that when you are too nice to people, they're going to think that you're trying to control them. And if you really think about it, and that's what I discovered years ago, because I used to do it. And people just didn't trust me, like, well, why do you want to be nice to me? And I was like, well, can I help you? Maybe I want to help you and this and this. Like, but then it forms into this control of, let's say for instance, that they'll be like, okay, I'll let you help me, right? And then you help them out, and then let's say they come into a lot of money. Maybe you're that lucky, right? That maybe you're that lucky that I had to say that again because there was a car that went really fast, and I hope nothing happened. Wow. It went really fast. You guys cannot hear it because I'm using my microphone that cancels the background noise. But there was just a car that just went really fast, like a NASCAR, and it hit something. So hopefully it didn't hit a pole or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that just kind of interrupted me. Something about speed, something about fast. So I don't know. Um, so what happens is that what happens is that, yeah, because I'm hearing downloads right now. What happens is um, when you're too nice to someone, and then they don't trust you, and then let's say you help them out and they made a lot of money, and then you're gonna feel, as a person of people pleasing, you're gonna feel like rejected because maybe that person doesn't want to do nothing with you, doesn't want to work with you, and then you're going to say, well, that person is selfish. But then you really have to think that that's why you have to set boundaries. Then you really have to think of yourself as like, well, did that person ask for your help? No. Okay, so you offered the help on your own, right? So that's your fault. You know what I mean? Because if he didn't ask for your help, and you just, maybe you were too kind, too generous, and you probably thought, I could help them out, I can give them more views, more fame, more money, and it's not reciprocated, then you should have never meddled in. you know, it's like a nosy type of energy, right? And if you really think about it and you analyze it, you didn't really do it with a good intention. It was more, maybe you just wanted to connect with that person, you know, and make networks, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But you got to know when you're over giving too much, okay? And that goes for both ways. That goes for men and that goes for women, okay? If it's a man and he's people pleasing the female and always putting her on a pedestal, and let's say she's a cheater, right? And she's selfish, right? She doesn't care about him, and but you keep putting her on a pedestal, well, that's all you're going to continue to get, right? And and she probably said, well, I didn't ask for this, I didn't ask for whatever, you're people pleasing in, right? And so they continue to do what they do, they never asked for this, they just, you offered it, so I took it, and it goes vice versa, right? And that's one thing I understood, when I was just trying to help people, and because I am a 33-6, okay? And I tend to elevate people, okay? My job here is to elevate the collective, okay? Consciously, subconsciously. And for them to do better, for them to elevate. When you connect with the 33-6 or just the 33, what happens is that you elevate. They're just it is what it is. You're going to elevate. Okay. And that's a good thing because people want to elevate, people want to ascend, right? And if you connect with the 33, that's what happens. Okay. And so I am a 33, so I do tend to elevate people. It could just be in like a recommendation, it could be anything, or I say something good about that person. All of a sudden, they're in television. Anything that I say or anything, everything is marketing. Okay. So everything that we talk about, it's marketing. And so if you don't want to market people like that, then just don't say anything, you know? Don't mention their name, don't mention what they do. And I've given a lot of work to a lot of celebrities where I've just, I'll say, I like this celebrity, I think they sing good, or I think they act good, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, they have a film, they're making a film, they're on this TV show, they're on, they just landed with a new record, and that's what happens with 33. So, I learned not to talk about celebrities anymore like that before because I didn't get it back in return anyway. I didn't even get a thank you. So, you know, I'm not going to do that again. So that's just my lesson. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about, if you are a people pleaser, ask yourself why you are doing it, right? Are you trying to be liked? Are you trying to connect with that person? Just be authentic with that person of your intentions of what it is, because if it's not reciprocated, you're probably going to get pissed off. Okay. You're probably going to get mad, and so you just have to, you know, just know what the intention is when it comes to helping that person, can come from people pleasing, right? There's nothing wrong with helping people, right? But if you're putting that person on a pedestal for too much and you're not getting nothing in return, okay, that's your fault, because you needed to set a boundary, you know. And so, and that has happened to me in the past, and I said that's a pattern, and I'm not going to repeat. And I will cut myself off if I start noticing that pattern again. I will cut myself. I will put my boundary. I will step back, disconnect. I will do whatever it takes until that person realizes that maybe they do want me in their life, and now they have to show me that they want me in their life. Okay. So that's a block: over giving and not receiving. Okay. The next one is the lack of self worth. That's another block. Okay. So, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have no self worth in yourself of who you are, and a lot of times the self worth comes from maybe looking good, smelling good, good hygiene, uh, losing weight, eating healthy, right? Because when you are not taking care of yourself, you start losing your lack of self-worth, and people perceive you in, oh, like you're not worthy, um or whatever it is, right? So it's all up to you, but it's a block there, okay, of not having self-worth. So maybe, if you are chubby, on the chubby side, maybe start losing some weight. Start eating a little bit more healthy. Maybe you decided to become a vegetarian, right? I know when I lived in Arizona, I became a vegetarian, okay? And it actually just happened by mistake. It just happened because Subway did not have meat, okay? And I was living in Arizona, and I was my most healthiest self when I lived in Arizona. And me and my sister were traveling, and we were heading back home from California because we used to visit our parents all the time. And we stopped at a gas station called Love's to fill up the gas in the car, and we were so hungry. And I actually blogged about it in my Medium if you want to look at that. I shared it a couple times, and so they didn't have any meat. They didn't have ham. They didn't have meat. They didn't have salami. They didn't have nothing. All they had was just veggies and avocado and the sauce and the bread, and that was it. Okay, and we were starving, and we decided to just say screw it, just get a vegetarian sandwich because we were that hungry. We were so hungry we could eat a horse. It's an expression. And so we um, we bought the sandwich and we were munching on it. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so good!" It was so good, like the best sandwich ever. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And it has no meat. Imagine that. And me and my sister just started loving, vegetarian food. And so when we went back to Arizona, we decided to go to Whole Foods because there was a nearby Whole Foods where I used to buy all my groceries and everything organic and everything, and my vitamins and everything. Everything was so stocked up, and we decided to become vegetarians. Okay, and we were doing pizzas just made out of veggies. We came up with actually my sister did, so I'm gonna give her credit for that because she was the one. I didn't have time because I was always at work. But when I used to come from work, the food was already done. So she was like the chef at home, and she cooks really good, and she was learning recipes online. And she was just, okay, we need cheese and we need tomato and we need this, and we'll go shopping for that. And then she would just do like I had my own personal chef for the first time. So, and we both were losing weight, right? We were both losing weight. We were both and that was my experience there. That made me feel really good. My hair was shiny, my self-worth went up. We both started losing weight. We felt really good. And so one of the blocks is the lack of self-worth. So what are you doing that makes you feel that you're not worthy? Okay. Waiting for permission. Oh, that's a big one. Okay. Waiting for permission. If you don't have Aries in your chart, you're probably somebody that waits for permission, you know, or asks for permission, right? There's a quote that I said because I have Aries in the 12th house, right? So the 12th house is more about doing secret things, that nobody knows, or just being quiet and being silent, or vacationing a lot. And when it's in the sign of Aries, that has to do with travel and it has to do with the mind, right? Um, my motto that I used to say is I rather I rather ask for no I rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. Okay, so I used to say that a lot when I found out I had Aries in the 12th house, because you know we all make decisions and they're not the best decisions all the time unless you know astrology. But you know, we're gonna make mistakes, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not perfect. Okay. But and when I said that, it was 33, 33. Interesting. And so I'm not perfect or nothing like that, but um which one is it? Is yeah, waiting for permission. So, you know, I never ask for permission, I rather just do, and if I screwed up, then I will say, "Well, I'm sorry." But I'm not going to ask for permission like, "Do you think I should do this?" That's more like Libra. Aries doesn't ask for permission. They just do. And if they screw up, they're going to say, "Well, you know what? I'm sorry." Like, it I shouldn't have did this, or um, whatever it is, right? And um, but that's what it is. You rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, okay? Because asking for permission is going to delay you, okay? It's going to delay you. It's going to hold you back. It's going to set you back. And so I rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, okay? So you got to be like an Aries, okay? Because waiting for permission, you're going to wait forever, okay? Chronic procrastination. That's a big one too. That's another block. Okay. So just procrastinating so much, just say I'm going to do this. A lot of it does have to do maybe ADHD. Um, it procrastination might be also because you're not passionate about what you're doing, and also I found out also that it has to do with your identity. Okay, you have to change your identity because the old you is just getting rotten. The old you is bored. The old you, we're in a new era where a lot of people are pivoting. A lot of people are changing their identity, their name, how they look, their haircut, just everything, right? And procrastination can come because you're so bored of yourself. Okay, and you're not passionate about life. You're not. So what do? You procrastinate. You procrastinate. And it's not your fault. Okay. And it's not your fault, but it is your fault if you don't do anything about it. Right. So change your look, change your identity, maybe learn something brand new. For what I learned is when you learn something brand new, like let's say a language, uh, a, a different way of how to cook. Maybe if you drive a car, driving through another route, right? Going to another city, doing a road trip, something that's going to refresh your mind. Okay, do something new every day, right? And it doesn't have to be something big, it could be something small, right? So, what it does, it cuts off the procrastination. Now you're doing something different, you know? Now maybe you see those. I know they're everywhere. They have like these painting classes, right? I know we have some here in our town as well, and with like art and wine, right? And then you paint on these canvases, and I think we had one recently at a brewery here in downtown where I live, and they had just like art classes and wine and so forth. And so what that can do is you're doing something brand new. So you don't feel bored of yourself. You don't feel like you're procrastinating. You have no zest. You have no passion. And so that can lead to procrastination. Okay. Indecision is another block. Okay. You're indecisive. You can't decide, very Libra energy. Um, Comparing yourself to others, it's another block. Okay. If you compare yourself to others, you shouldn't do that. Okay. You got to be unique and know that you have your own unique, your own talents. Okay. And you don't want to be like anybody else. Okay. Be like an Aquarius. Aquarius, if you have strong Aquarius, you're someone that does not want to be like someone else. You want to be unique. You want to be different. It's so interesting because um, you see those lookalikes of these celebrities, and you're like, oh my gosh, they look just exactly like that celebrity. Like they did surgery exactly. I was it Kylie? I think it was Kylie that people were asking for. They went to the surgeon and said, I want to look like Kylie, and they shaped her nose, they did her face, everything like Kylie. Kylie Jenner, okay? And I was like, why? Like, why do they want to look exactly like them? You know, like they have no, you know, uh, I don't know. It's okay. Yeah, I'm hearing the word imitation, something about imitation. That yeah, they're trying to imitate them, and I don't know. I think there's just nothing like being unique. Nothing like being unique. I've said it that I'm a blonde because, well, not really blonde blonde, but it's like a, kind of blonde, sandy blonde hair because of my Saturn on my first. Okay, so Saturn in the first, it brings down. Um, you seem very Saturnian, right? And so when I have brown hair, I haven't had brown hair for a long time, or dark hair, but when I had it, I look very I look very intimidating. Okay. I look very intimidating, and people will not ask me questions. They will not come up to me. They will not approach me. I had to wear like a bunch of makeup so I could kind of stand out. And I mean, black hair with like red lipstick looks really good, you know? But the whole Latina look, a lot of them are very brunette and so forth. But I look very washed down. And when I started learning astrology, and also your first house is your face and how you represent to the world, and I'm a Taurus rising, and it's at a Leo degree. So I'm very Taurus Leo, which makes me an entertaining bull. Um, I was, you know, I noticed that when I became blonde, or my hair was just more lighter, I was getting all kinds of attention. There was people that were approaching me all the time. People are more friendly and so forth, and my face was more bright like the sun. And I don't know, I loved it. And so other people don't agree, like, why are Latinas blonde? Why can't they be brunette? Why do they have to be blonde? It's like, well, first of all, me, because of astrology, because I have to, my astrology. If not, I'm going to look washed down. And I do every decision based on astrology. Okay. And that's why I do it. But it looks really good on me, right? And people, yeah, I know people do not think I'm Mexican. They think I'm like white or a bimbo. But I'm not a bimbo. I'm very intelligent. And I feel more attractive. I feel more fun. Like blondes have more fun, I guess. I don't know. No, I think everybody has fun, but they do say blondes have more fun because they're more open minded. And um, I don't know. It's just the sun, right? Plus, I have my sun in the 11th house of the spotlight, right? So, the sun is, when you look at the sun, right, and it's in the 11th house, that you got to stand out. You got to stand. You can't be hiding out. So, anyway, indecisions, comparing yourself to others. Okay, so I talked about that. Know your unique values and what makes you elevate, and be yourself. Another block is attachment to struggle. Okay. Your attachment to struggle, that's really important. Okay. Because you might adapt to always struggling. And what happens is that when you always adapt and you attach yourself to that struggle, that's all you're going to know. Okay. And that's not good. That's a block. Okay. You always say, well, I always have to struggle. I have to carry all these bags because I'm always struggling, you know. I guess, I'm always struggling, so this is my life. This is the way it is. No, no, that's not the way it is. Okay. You get to change. Okay. You gotta rid yourself of struggle. Okay. And understand that your life is with ease. When you do things with ease, it becomes better, right? Ask for help. Okay. If it becomes too struggling, you know, ask a neighbor, can you help me? I'm going to go to the store and, you know, I have a couple of bags. Can you help me with a couple of bags or something? You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with asking for help, right? Um, the next block is fear of judgment. Okay. So you might fear to be judged. Let me see. What time is it? Oh, already 43 minutes. Okay. The fear, I'm going to go a little bit more faster here. I do have a lot of things to say about, maybe I'll do part two on the activation. This is just going to be everything that we have to release. Okay, so it's a lot. Um, the fear of judgment. Okay, the fear that people are judging you, the way you work, what you do, how you live, what you eat, how you dress, how you do your hair. And all of that. Right. The fear of judgment is a block. So you got to release the fear of being judged. Okay, and understand that nobody's perfect. Okay, that's why we're all here on this earth. Okay, to fix ourselves. Okay, nobody is perfect. um People pleasing, I talked about people pleasing, so that's another one. Emotional spending. Okay, whenever you're feeling your emotions, you tend to spend a lot. I know I've done that before. That's very Libra. And it depends where your moon is as well. Okay, wherever your moon is the spending, is how you spend money, what you eat. Okay. And but this is emotional spending. So Libras love to shop, right? My moon is in Libra, so I love to shop. I don't think I could get tired. I once used to get really tired before. I used to go to the mall like with my sister, like every week. When I think I was like 2021, I had this really great job, and we used to go every week to the mall and have a bunch of bags, and we used to throw them in the window in the bedroom window, throw all the bags in there because my dad was like, "What's all those bags?" And he just did not like me spending a lot of money. He said, "You spend too much money. You don't know how to use your money." And I used to have like maybe like three, four bags, but we used to hide it from my dad. Um, so he won't know what I spend on. And yeah, it was very traumatic, when it came to money, because he wanted me to save money. He did not want me to spend money. But saving is not good either, okay? Because it's saving in the bank, but it's not accruing anything. You got to invest. That's where it's at. Um, another, take a sip here. The lack of discipline is another block. Okay, that one is very important. If you're not disciplined, if you don't have standards, your energy is going to go everywhere and you're not going to be able to do anything. Okay, so that you have to have some sort of discipline. That's Saturn. Okay, so it depends where you have your Saturn in your chart, is how you discipline your life. Okay, I have it in Gemini, so it's not too disciplined, especially when it's at the degree of money. But you got to put effort. Okay, you got to discipline yourself. Another thing is this trust of intuition. You're not trusting your intuition. You're not trusting your gut. That's where your intuition is. Okay, you got to follow your gut, and you also have to take good supplements. Okay, to nurture your gut. Okay, because that's where information comes from. Okay, it's the vagus nerve that is attached to the brain gut, their connection. And what happens is if you nurture it and if you source it with proteins, and you're gonna like chlorella or just different, that helps you with your intuition, you're gonna be able to trust it more, okay, and not be influenced by others. The other block is staying in comfort zones. If you're too much in your comfort zone, that's not good. Okay, too much um, familiarity. Well, it's familiar. Well, this is my comfort zone. I've been sitting in this couch for like 30 years and I don't want to get rid of it. It's too familiar. Like no. Okay, we need to do new things. Okay. So get out of your comfort zone. Do something that embarrasses you. Dance, right? Go to the supermarket and just dance a little. Or walk in the streets and you hear some music, just dance a little bit. You know what I mean? Dancing is really good. It really actually helps you so you won't have sciatica in your back. Okay, a lot of people get sciatica and they don't know this, but they get sciatica because they're not moving around and they're not dancing or having sex. But I'm not saying go out there and have sex. If you have a partner and you're married, yeah, have all the sex you want, right? Another thing too is so I talked about staying in comfort zones, victim mentality. If you have that victim mentality that everybody hurts you and everything, and you point fingers, okay, you're a finger pointer. I used to do that. I don't do that no more. And that's gonna be a block. Okay, you're always like everything's always wrong with me, and people are always this and this. Well, do something different. If that keeps happening, if you keep, you know, if you feel like a victim, then do something different. Okay, do something different so you won't be a victim. Right? What else can you do? Can you go play a sport? Can you read a good book? Right? How to get out of your victim mentality. And a lot of it has to do with childhood. Okay. You got to really look back at your childhood and how you were treated and what happened to you during your childhood and how you blame everybody. Right? That's a block. Resentment towards successful people. Okay. Which is the acronym of hater. What is it? Having anger towards other people's success or something like that. And resentment towards people that have success. There we go, the comparison again, right? So do something that's going to make you successful. Okay, so you won't have to resent that in others. Unfinished goals or projects. That one's deep. Okay. I've been there before, and a lot of it has to do with Aries energy, where Aries can leave unfinished projects. If they don't feel completely passionate about it, they'll just go the other way. Okay. Um, and so, make sure that you're very disciplined in the work that you do so you can complete it to the end. Other than that, maybe you're just not passionate about it. Negative self-talk, so that's really big too, talking bad about yourself or criticizing yourself. I tend to do that, but I do it in a funny way. I don't do it, I shouldn't do it though at all because it's frequency. Okay. But sometimes I will just be like if I wear like a clothing or something, I'm like, no, I don't like how that looks. I'm so sure, Laura. I do talk to myself, right? Because I'm so sure, Laura, like this. No, it looks like a tomato or something. I don't know. I just kind of make it into something funny, but then I realize, like, why did I say that? I should not even be saying that. You know what I mean? But I know people tend to say things we don't mean it, but we really have to be careful what we say because even if it's funny, because we're actually manifesting it. So instead of saying you're a tomato, say you're a carrot, right? Carrots are skinny, right? I'm so skinny, I look like a carrot. See, that feels even good. Anyway, let's see. Avoiding responsibility. Okay, that's a big one and one I have overcome. Um, where before I didn't want to be responsible, and a lot of it has to do with astrology, because I've had in my progress chart, I've had Mars in Aquarius since I was 8 years old. Okay, and it barely closed up, and now I have Mars in Pisces, but it's so much better than Aquarius, though. Okay, Pisces is so much better. It's more like putting action towards wanting to relax, wanting to live near the water, putting maybe driving a car that's very Piscean, or something like that, because Mars rules cars. So, but when it was in Aquarius, oh man, I was very irresponsible. Even through high school, yeah, I was a ditcher. I was a rebel. Like, oh my God, my Mars in Aquarius. I really regret a lot of things during that transit, but I didn't know astrology back then. That's why it's very important. And I was very irresponsible. I was always partying in Hollywood. I was always just a rebel, like jumping fences from high school and and then we used to I used to run for the cops all the time. It was bad. It was really bad. But thank God that closed up. Okay. Now in Pisces, it's more classy, it's not so rebellious. But because it's Mars, okay, it's Mars. And so with Mars, it's like very aggressive with the rebellion. But now it's in Pisces, it's more classy. It's more about like music and traveling around the water, going to the beach, just more laid back, you know. Let's see. Okay, so avoiding responsibility, that's a block. Fear of leadership, fear of standing out and being a leader. Okay, that's another block. Isolation and refusing support. That's a big one. Okay, if you want to do everything by yourself and you don't want nobody to help you, you're not asking for support and you're isolating yourself, that's not good. Okay, you're supposed to connect with people. It's even biblical that God says that He wants us to connect with people and make friends. Even Jesus had followers, right? He had 12 apostles that were following Him. And not only them, but a whole lot of people were following Him. He was walking in the community and everybody was following Him. Everybody wanted to touch His robe, right? So he used to attract a lot of people, Moon in Aquarius. Um, so those are some of the things that can happen there when you isolate yourself and you refuse support. That's a block. Okay, we need to work with people, we need to connect with people, because also it says in the Bible that when you are isolating yourself, it's much more easier for the devil to get to you. What happened with Jesus, for those that are Christian and biblical that read the Bible, what happened to Jesus when he was walking by himself? He was by himself. He said, I'm going to meditate. Everybody leave me alone. I mean, he didn't say it like that, but something like that. He told his apostles, "Go over there and pray. Leave me alone. I'm going to be over here by this rock in a hill." And what happened? That the devil, okay, or Satan, right, knew where Jesus was and went to go follow Jesus and said, maybe I can make Jesus jump, right, off the cliff. Let's see if he obeys. Let's see if he follows what I say, right? And so Satan or the devil told him, jump, just jump, like nothing's going on for you, maybe it'll be better for you. And what did Jesus say? Get thee behind me, Satan. Like he knew. He said, you a hater. Get away from me, right? And so, but he found them when he was alone, when he was isolated, you know? And so we should never, that's a block. Don't be isolated, um, and don't refuse support if people want to help you. Okay. Inconsistent habits. Okay. If your habits are inconsistent, maybe you need to get a calendar. I have a giant calendar on my wall, by the way. It keeps me very consistent because if not, I will forget. Maybe set something in your phone with an alarm. I tend to do that a lot with Siri. Just anything that can help you to be consistent with the habits that you do. I take my pink drink, this pink drink that I love, this raspberry drink. I think this is my third month, and I've lost weight, and I just love it because it tastes like a raspberry drink. It's so good. It's so delicious. So it's like I'm not even putting work in it. All I'm doing is just sipping, just drinking it, and it's like a lemonade, and it tastes so good. And it does help. I've lost plenty of weight because of it. But, it's just a starter, I want to, by summer, I think maybe by July, I'll let it go. And then I'll just be eating healthy, like vegetarian or something like that, to consistently continue it, right? Because this is just temporary, it's just to jumpstart weight loss. Um, Ignoring physical health. Okay, if you're ignoring your physical health, if you're not moving around, if you're not walking around, if you're not doing power walks, you're not going to a gym, if you're not doing anything, that's a block. Okay, you should never ignore your physical health. And it's not just, doing exercise, but it's also, making sure that you're healthy, making sure you take your vitamins. All of that is health is wealth. Okay, so you should always be on top of that. Lack of boundaries. If you have lack of boundaries and you're always, dumping on people, or, forcing yourself, you're a forcer and you just keep forcing yourself onto people, that's a block. Okay. So you need to have boundaries, standards. Okay. Because that is what's going to elevate you. Obsession with perfection. Okay. That's a block. Okay. People that wear, like females that wear a lot of makeup, I'm so glad that the whole contour is gone, because, no shame on Kim Kardashian, but she started the whole contour, like putting so much makeup and, making like these fake cheeks and everything. I don't know. I couldn't never really do that, to tell the truth. Like I tried it a couple times, but I was not into the whole contouring. I think that's too much makeup, too much powder, too much, like you see these girls that it takes them like half an hour and they put so much stuff on their face, and it's like, God, do you have to put all that? Um, but it's art, I guess. So anyway, this obsession with perfection, and it's not just beauty, okay? It's also the mind. It's if it has to be this way, I'm not going to do a video, and I know I've been there, but because I have Saturn rules perfection, okay? And when it's Gemini in social media, it's kind of like, well, I don't have the perfect lighting, I don't have the perfect camera, I don't have the perfect, I'm like, come on, Laura, do you really not want to do a video? Or you know what I mean? And it's like, you should, that's a block. Okay. So don't obsess over perfection because it's not real. Suppressing creativity. If you're suppressing your creativity, okay, and you're not putting it out there, well, what are you doing? Because that's a block. Okay. Do not ever suppress your creativity. Okay. Always put it out there. living disconnected from purpose. Okay, if you're living in disconnected from purpose, you're not on your purpose. That's not good. Okay, everybody has a purpose in life, but especially if you have a yod, and like I do, and you're supposed to put your purpose out there. Okay, um, because if you're not, then you're disconnected from life. Okay, so purpose is what wakes us up, what makes us passionate about life, what we want to go and do. You know, like today, I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to go for a hike. I'm going to go for a park walk. I'm going to go buy me a coffee. I'm going to start my day, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm a podcast. And that's what I've been wanting to do. But I don't know if it is going to be possible because, I can't say everything that I'm doing. Okay. This is why I do have a VPN. um, Refusing to evolve or release the past. Okay. So if you refuse to grow, if you refuse to expand, if you refuse to release the past, that's a block. Okay. So you got to release the past. You got to let it go. So there is a lot of spiritual teachers that connect with the number 33, known as a master teacher. Okay, is the archetype in numerology, meaning someone meant to uplift, to guide, to create beauty, heal, or inspire on a larger scale. In that framework, the biggest wealth blocks, okay, can often be tied to avoiding visibility, over sacrificing, emotional exhaustion, and feeling responsible for everyone else. Okay. So if you do resonate with the 33, those 33 blocks, wealth is often said to grow. Okay. When your gifts become structured, when your creativity becomes consistent, and your nurturing energy gains boundaries instead of becoming self-sacrifice. So some people also, you can also group these blocks in three major categories, and I'm going to end you with that. The first category is the mental blocks, which is limiting beliefs, fear, doubt, confusion, and overthinking. Okay. The emotional blocks is shame, guilt, resentment, emotional attachment, and unhealed rejection. Energetic behavior blocks, inaction, chaos, lack of routine, draining environments, misaligned relationships. The interesting thing is that wealth blocks are rarely just money problems. They usually show up in avoidance, low visibility, inconsistent exhaustion, or not believing you can safely hold success. So those are big, big, big uh, 33 blocks. Okay. And in another episode, I'm going to do the activators, which is what we can start doing. Because this is just things that you need to release. And I know a lot of people have at least one or two. Nobody's perfect. Okay. When I was reading, I was like, okay, I have that one, or I still have to work on that one. But as long as, the majority, as long as you do the majority, you have released the majority, and maybe you have one or two there that you have to work on, you know, um, then that's good, right? But it's good to know the 33 blocks because you can start getting to work where you don't want to be that way. You don't want to act that way, right? You don't want to be seen as that person. It talks a lot about fear. There's about three of them: fear of being seen, fear of success, and fear of failure. Um, I don't have fear, but I'm not perfect either. I mean, I think if I see a scorpion somewhere, running around, I'm gonna get scared, right? And or a tarantula or something, Um, but the majority, I've dealt with so much fear in my life. I've gone through so much. It's very psychologically thrilling kind of situation. that has been traumatic, but I've overcome, a lot of it. I'm a baddie, but I wasn't a baddie before. So that's the growth that I went into, like a Libra into an Aries. And, but I've been through a lot of fear in my life that I've overcome. And so now I'm like, what else can happen? I mean, I'm fearless, right? And that's just my confidence saying that because I am. And like I'm just like I'm the type like let's get it done. Like like I'm not fearful, Um, but yeah, everybody's different. So just, maybe listen to the podcast if you want to listen to it again. As I talk about the whole 33 energy blocks that we can release in order for success to come in, okay? In order for us to be abundant, in order for us to be a leader, in order for us to be in that high frequency, okay? Not only is it meditation and tools and all of that, but it's also letting go of a lot of these victim mentalities we might have. The fear of standing out, not being seen, not being a leader. Okay. Maybe the lack of boundaries. Maybe you need to do some boundaries, Maybe you obsess with perfection and it doesn't exist, and so not living in your purpose, then what are you living for? Right. So anyway, I hope you guys listen to the podcast and it helped you guys in some kind of way. And my desire here, just at the podcast, is to inspire and help other people that maybe you never heard of these 33 blocks, and maybe you could start applying them, and then your life can change. I am going to do a part two in now talking more about the activations of what you can do, right? And I will do that in the next episode. So if you like this episode, do share, do subscribe, okay, and that way we can continue doing these type of financial and abundance and mindsets, okay, that can help us with our business, with our money, especially me. This does a lot of good to me as well. And I will talk to you on the next one.